Hey, what's up, Bulldogs? It's Mr. Weber, and today I'm going to be teaching you about diffusion and osmosis across the cell membrane. For this assignment, I want you to have a piece of paper or a Google Doc, and you can title it Diffusion and Osmosis Across the Cell Membrane. Okay, and as you're watching the video, just remember that you can pause the video so you can write things down and be able to keep up with the notes. Okay, and your next note that you're going to write down is passive transport, the movement of molecules across the cell membrane that requires no energy. Both diffusion and osmosis are types of passive transport. Okay, and to remind you about what a cell membrane is, it is the outside of the cell, and it is made of phospholipids. The phospho means phosphate. It is the orange-colored circle. And then the lipid is the yellow fatty structure. And these are in what's called a lipid bilayer, meaning that there's two of them there. The yellow parts are facing each other, so the fatty parts are facing each other, and the phosphates are on the outside. And this cell membrane helps control what's going in and out of the cell, which is really good for us. Okay, and next on your notes, what you're going to do is you're going to create a T-chart. You can fold your paper hot dog style if you want, so that the left side of your paper is going to have definitions, and the right side of your paper is going to have pictures. And our first definition is going to be diffusion, or our first word is going to be diffusion. And okay, and your definition for diffusion is movement of molecules from a high concentration, where there's a lot of something, to a low concentration, where there is little of something. And to show that, we're going to put a high concentration in picture of dots. And we're going to mark that with the letter H for high concentration. And we're going to do a few dots over here with an L symbolizing low concentration. And the arrow is going to go from the high concentration, and the particles are going to move to the low concentration. And this is happening everywhere, all around you, in the air, and also inside your body. So things in fluids, gases and liquids will be moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. An example of this might be smoke. If you were to light a match, you'd have a high concentration of that smoke around the match initially, but over time, the molecules from the match will spread out and move to areas of low concentration until they have reached an equilibrium. Okay, your next word is going to be osmosis. So over here, you're going to write osmosis on the vocabulary side. And then, okay, and osmosis is pretty much the same thing, but it's specific to water. So here we have some water molecules in a high concentration, lots of water molecules. And here we have water molecules in a low concentration. And the water molecules will want to go from a high concentration to a low concentration. So osmosis is basically one type of diffusion specific to water. Okay, now I'm going to have you rewrite the word diffusion one more time. And we're going to do diffusion across the cell membrane. And then you're going to write osmosis right below it. And we're going to do osmosis across the cell membrane. Okay, so here I am drawing a cell membrane, or just part of the cell membrane. And the yellow things are representing the fatty lipid part, and the orange is the phosphate part. It's called a phospholipid bilayer because it has two layers of phospholipids. For diffusion, we're going to talk about small molecules moving across the cell membrane. And a lot of common small molecules that would move across the cell membrane would be oxygen and carbon dioxide. All of your cells really need oxygen in order to have energy. And they want to get rid of the carbon dioxide as waste, because it's not good for you. So here we're going to put some oxygen molecules, and they have been delivered from your lungs to the different parts of your body so that your cells can get oxygen. And here it is in a high concentration, and here's oxygen in a low concentration inside your cell. And so we're going to put an H right here for high concentration and an L right here for low concentration. And the molecules are so small that they'll be able to go through the phospholipid bilayer to the low concentration by diffusion. There's a lot of molecules that can do this by diffusion through the phospholipid bilayer because they are so small. One of the molecules that can do this is water, and so water is the diffusion. Osmosis is the diffusion of water. So we're going to put a bunch of water molecules here, and we're going to put a H for high concentration on the outside of the cell, and on the inside of the cell we're going to say there's not very much water. So here's an L for low concentration, and the diffusion of water across the cell membrane, it goes from a high concentration to a low concentration. It does take a little bit longer for water because of the phospholipid bilayer has hydrophobic lipids in the middle, so it takes the water molecules a little bit longer to get across, but they eventually will. Okay, now both diffusion and osmosis across a cell membrane happen with very tiny molecules. If you have a larger molecule, like sugar, for example, then you would need some different form of transport, and that is called facilitated transport. All right, and facilitated transport uses protein channels that allow the larger molecules inside or out of the cell. Like I said, sugar can be a large one of these, and so we're going to make the protein channels, or gates they're sometimes called, green. So you got these big green gates, and we're going to have some large molecules of sugar here, and they're going to be in a high concentration. This is still a passive type of transport that requires no energy from your body. It just simply moves from a high concentration to a low concentration by diffusion. So we got an L there and an H there, and when the cell detects that there is a higher concentration of something it wants inside, it can open this channel, and by opening this channel, it allows the sugar molecules to go through by diffusion inside the cell. Okay, to review, we started off our notes with talking about diffusion and osmosis as both being two types of passive transport that require no energy, and that can happen in any kind of medium of water or gas, things moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. Then we moved into the cells and in our body, and specifically talking about diffusion across the cell membrane of any kind of molecule from a high concentration to a low concentration, and then more specific, water moving from a high concentration to a low concentration right through the cell membrane, because those two things are so small. And then we talked about facilitated transport, which would allow larger things like a sugar molecule from the bloodstream, maybe because you had lunch and you just ate, and now it's being delivered from a high concentration in your bloodstream to a low concentration in your cells so that you can use that sugar to make energy. Finally, just to talk about the opposite of passive transport is called active transport. And if you wanted to go the opposite way from a low concentration to a high concentration, it would require energy. And so they call it active transport. And we'll have to talk about that another day. Wish you guys all well. Hope you're doing good. Thanks for listening, and make sure to turn in your notes.